Greetings, welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be looking at visualizing data with Google Maps platform, deck.gl, and Angular. Please like, share, subscribe, and most importantly, reach out to me in the comment section. I love to give out help and assistance as well as to receive it. A link to the lab and the social media will be posted in the video description. All right, so first things first, before we go on an overview, definitely wanted to speak about the Google Developer Platform, and it's a developer profile where you can work on various Google projects and get recognized for it in the form of a badge. This lab is actually predicated on that. However, I was able to set up a Angular front end and a Python back end, and I definitely wanted to display what I was able to do. So a link to the resource and how to get a developer profile set up will be posted in the resources section of this lab. All right, so now just an overview of Google Maps platform. Google Maps platform is like what you expect to see in Google Maps.com and maps.google.com. However, you get to see this in your front end. You get to apply this to your APIs, where it's going to be through a web browser, Android, iOS, that, and the third. So what we want to go ahead and do is we want to download the front end and the back end at these links, and definitely always want to work with down Git. Love working um, with this front end, right? It actually takes the target folder that you need to work with, like so. And as you can see, it's already set up and ready to go. What you would do in each of the roots of the application stack, you go ahead and install and run the front end, the back end with these commands, right? And then after of which we're going to go ahead and find these files, right? This is our back end, and these are files are in our front end. So first thing we want to go ahead and do is we want to set up our credentials, right? We want to head over to the developers console, and we want to go ahead and make an API key for our front end, because Google Maps is going to be in our front end, right? We're going to need an API key like so. We create an API key, and then we want to go ahead and restrict like so. You want to restrict it to the maps, not the deployment, but maps JavaScript API. You can see there's many APIs here, so you want to go ahead and choose the correct one like so. Right, and I want to go ahead and head over to our environment file and paste our API key so that when we go ahead and grab our library, right, things go well. Next, what we need to do is go ahead and async load the library. Basically, we need this library to be ready and initialized in our front end application before we try to use it. So what we go ahead and do is we take advantage of the fact that there's a callback after the library is loaded and initialized in our front end app. We provide a function that we need to be seen on the window object, right? And then we also provide a subject so that we can have async control to notify our directive or the element that is working with the maps object that, all right, the library is ready to use. You can go ahead and actually try to create a map object, which we're actually going to see, right? So in our front end, right, you could see that we have a blank screen, right? This is a message concerning the back end. We have a blank screen, but we have a space, and the space is where the map is going to go. So what we want to go ahead and do is head over to our directive. And directive extends elements, if you didn't know that. So as you can't see, there's a diff, but we always want to use directives when we want to apply special features. And the special feature we're applying here is a map, right? So we import our objects help for this lab, and now to actually initialize the map, we go ahead like so, right? And then we always might have an issue, right? Definitely in the lab where it seems to break. We want to go ahead and do in our browser, and this is Chromium Edge, but in your browser, we want to go ahead and do, usually when I right click it, it's a hard reload, but if not, I could do Control Shift F5. All right. And then I actually just pulled up a link. It says you might have to wait. But I think what it is, if you're working with new API keys, it kind of starts to react in weird ways. So definitely, I guess you should watch out for that on that. Well, hopefully that's the last interruption. Right. So now what we want to go ahead and do is, since we have our map ready, right, we want to retrieve the scatter plot data from BigQuery. And once again, we go into credentials. And this time when we're dealing with backends, we always want to set up the service account. So let's go ahead and set up the service account like so. Provide for a name. It can name anything you want. And now the roles you want to go ahead and grant is the BigQuery admin. And then usually when you're working with APIs and you're talking about permissions and roles, you always just want to provide um admin status, because it when it even comes to custom roles and permissions in my experience, it does not. If you want to do something slightly different, such as look at metadata or query a certain column, right, it's just you're going to find yourself, all right, we're going to have to use the admin before we could settle down and try to narrow things out. So definitely want to have production code before you actually can start to modify your roles. You don't want to modify your roles in development. So as you can see here, I actually provided for the BigQuery admin. Actually, let me just show you like so. Right. Want to go ahead edit the service account. You won't be able to see it here. Let me actually head over to IAM. Right? So I provided for BigQuery admin and then the service account token creator, because behind all these SDKs, what's really happening is a REST API, and we use tokens, JWT tokens, for authentication and authorization. So you want to provide that service account with the token creator role. So now back to editing the service account, what we want to go ahead and do next is you want to provide for a key, right? We create a key like so. And now we download it. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take the path of this private key.json, and we're going to set it to the Google application credentials environment. That variable, right? It's not stored on your computer. Either create one, and I would definitely like to go about doing this, but I really have it set up so with a private key JSON, so I don't want to replace it and cause issues. As you can see, caching is definitely one of the issues when you're dealing with these Google APIs. And also another thing too, if you don't want to go ahead and replace, there is actually a link in the resource about how to work with several different private key JSON files and detailed even in the resources part of this lab, right? So assuming that the environment variable is actually set up, we're going to go ahead into our backend and set up the code so that we could go ahead and query from BigQuery the data that we need. We copy and paste like so. Right, and what we need, right, is that longitude and latitude data, right? We're going to plot these points on the map, as well as the name of the bicycle station, as well as how many bikes that station can pick up, right? And then we just format it like so into and send it to the front end as needed. Okay, so that is our, right, so that will be our back end. And if we want to go ahead and refresh and see what this looks like in the console, right, we could see I should have provided a front end solution for this as well, but I think this should suffice, right? We could see all of our data, right? So as you could suppose, right, they're actually going to plot out on this map like so, right? And then the name of the stations and their capacities as well, right? So now since we have that data, we want to rate a way to actually see this on the map, right? So we're going to go ahead, we're going to start using the deck.gl library, and we are going to set up our layer operations with this code, right? And then also a link, definitely don't want to get into the details of the properties. A link to deck.gl will be posted in the resources part of this lab. And finally, we just want to go ahead and apply that scatter plot visualization to this map, right? And now you can see our points plotted on the map like so. So it's actually pretty beautiful, right? So we get to see the various city bike stations in New York, right? So now you can really just build upon this application here and really just apply the logic, as you can see in this Angular application, to your own projects, whether it be Angular or React, even though this channel doesn't agree too much with React, but you can see that we have a nice product, and not only we're able to replicate something in Google Developer Platform, right? We're able to have our own twist on it using Angular and Python. So thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. And most importantly, reach out to me in the comments if you work on this lab and you have any questions. A link to the lab as well as social media will be posted in the video description.